Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Warmies, live from the Sports Interaction Studio. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas, happy holiday season. Holidays aren't over. I mean, there's still lots of time to spend with your folks and a lot of snow to trudge through. And the Calgary Flames, one day before the holiday trade freeze will be lifted, are back at it again tonight to take on the Edmonton Oilers in a home-and-home, technically, the second half of a Christmas-spanning back-to-back doubleheader, if you want, Flames-Oilers. This time it is going to be at the Saddledome. Should be a lot of fun. Glad to have you along with us. We'll take you a look at the lines, the initial betting lines from the good folks over at Sports Interaction. The Flames definitely not favored in this game. Particularly not after they lost the previous game against the Edmonton Oilers. And wouldn't you know it, just from the folks over at Sports Interaction, a bet of the night. Look at this. Connor McDavid, 1+ goals. Connor McDavid, 1+ assists. And Oilers win. That's their sort of pre-logged, already baked parlay that they've got queued up over at Sports Interaction. That's at +350. So, hey, you know what? If that's your jam, feel free. I mean, I maybe, if you're on Team Tank, maybe that's something that you do want to see. I don't know. Hard to say. Your mileage may vary. But in any event, the Flames at +125, the over-under again at 6.5, the spread at 1.5. The Flames, they lost to these same Edmonton Oilers on the 23rd of December up at Rogers Place in Edmonton, and it was kind of ugly. The Flames did not play particularly well. Mackenzie Weegar scored the only goal in a 5-1 loss for the Calgary Flames at the hands of their provincial rivals. Good to see some folks, recognizable faces in the chat on this Saturday evening. It is an 8 p.m. start, as you might have guessed, considering the fact that we're doing Warmies at 7:30. And because of that, there's a lot of hockey that's already been played. And before we get into the lineups for today's game, it's worth just sort of digging into some of the things that have already happened on the out-of-town scoreboard and some things that have some big-time ramifications for the Calgary Flames. I think the absolute number one top story for today is the Buffalo Sabres. They've won 8 straight games. 8 straight games. They just beat the Boston Bruins 4-1 the final score. This game just went final in Buffalo. The Sabres playing host to the Atlantic Division rivals, the Bruins. Josh Norris with the empty netter, Matthias Samuelsson, Peyton Krebs, and Ryan McLeod with the other goals for Buffalo as they surrender the first goal, score 4 straight. And the Sabres now tied for the last playoff spot in the Eastern Conference, tied with the Florida Panthers. So that changes things as far as the Flames are concerned. If you're looking at the bottom of the NHL standings, you ain't seeing Buffalo there anymore. There's no more Buffalo Sabres in the NHL cellar. The Flames entering this game with 34 points in 37 games. They have a 15-18-4 record so far this season. And obviously they're coming off a loss in their last game. They're 6-4-0 in their last 10. And the teams below them in the standings, Chicago, Vancouver, Winnipeg. Well, wouldn't you know it, we're going to see them all tonight as well. Chicago is currently in action against the Dallas Stars, and that game is tied at 2. The Winnipeg Jets are leading the Minnesota Wild by a 3-2 score late in the third period of that game in Winnipeg. And the Vancouver Canucks will get on the ice later to take on the San Jose Sharks. That game happening at the same time as Calgary Edmonton. So some really interesting stuff on the out-of-town scoreboard tonight. If you're a Calgary Flames fan, if you're looking at the playoff picture, the Flames, they're still close. Sort of close. They're 5 points out of a playoff spot. LA and Utah are tied with 39 apiece, and they're in both the wild card positions. The West obviously is a lot worse than the Eastern Conference this year. Buffalo has gone on an incredible run here. They now have 42 points. And they would be in a playoff spot if they were in the West pretty comfortably. But out East, they're tied. They're tied with Florida. They're tied with the New York Rangers, sort of on the outside looking in. So For the Calgary Flames, they have, I guess, the odds in their favor a little bit more if you want to look at the playoff picture because the West is so weak. I mean, Utah is a 500 team, and they're in the last playoff spot. But, yeah, I think it's much more pertinent to look at the McKenna sweepstakes. Speaking of, Gavin McKenna in action earlier today. Team Canada has had some trouble with Team Latvia in the last few World Junior tournaments. Last year, of course, as we all remember, they lost in a shootout. Eriks Matiko, the Washington Capitals prospect, scoring the shootout winner for Latvia against Canada in the World Juniors last year. Well, this time around, it was Michael Hage, the Montreal Canadiens' first-round pick, who scored the OT winner. Zane Parekh with an assist on that play, and Gavin McKenna with the other. Gavin McKenna has 4 points in 2 games with Team Canada to start the World Juniors. They are all primary assists. He's been playing well. Team Canada has had some mixed results, I would say, from some of their forward lines. The Cole Baudouin line was really rough in the first game against the Czechs, and Cole Reshny was on that line. He got moved off that line today. He scored a goal on the power play. Good to see for Cole Reshny after he was on the ice for a ton of goals against in the first game. Reshny gets a goal, and then Zane Parekh, after scoring 2 in the opener against the Czechs and being named player of the game, he assists on the overtime winner for Michael Hage. I've liked Gavin McKenna. I hope the rumors that we've seen of, teams maybe not being so enamored with Gavin McKenna, quite frankly, I hope they're true, because I think Gavin McKenna is the real deal. I think he's just too good to not be the top player in this year's draft, and I would be surprised if he does fall out of the number 1 spot. But if he does, it's good news for the Flames, because I think they are in a position where a player of his talent, I think it's going to make a huge difference for them. And if he was back with Medicine Hat, I don't think we'd even be having a conversation about the number 1 overall pick. So Canada beats Latvia today. USA, I mean, you want to talk about close games. At least Latvia has been, a consistent thorn in the side of numerous teams over recent years. Team USA beat Switzerland 2-1 today. 2-1, the final score. Now, granted, they were without Cole Hudson, who sustained an injury earlier on in the game and will be reevaluated this weekend. But still, they only beat Switzerland 2-1. Brody Zemer and Will Zellers with the goals for Team USA. It was a low scoring game, not a whole lot of shots. Everybody was just trapped. It was not a blowout, to say the least. Slovakia with the biggest margin of victory so far today. They beat Germany 4-1. The Czechs are up 2-1 over the Danes. I mean, Denmark was everybody's pick to finish last in this tournament, to be relegated out of the tournament, and Czechia only has them up 2-1. And I apologize to the Czechs, but I don't know the pronunciations of their names, and I don't want to embarrass myself by trying. I think it's Wojtek Chihar and Mate Kubica. Correct me if I'm wrong. Apologies. But yeah, it is turning into a really good World Juniors. I'm really excited to see how it continues to play out. Canada will be back in action on the 29th, I believe. They've played back-to-back days to open up the tournament. Sweden, with Anton Frundell and Victor Eklund and a variety of other players, they're going to be playing Switzerland tomorrow. That's a game that I'm really excited to watch now that the USA only beat the Swiss by a 2-1 final score. Those Buffalo Sabres, they've won 8 straight. There was somebody really smart over at Daily Faceoff who wrote something about a month ago, almost exactly, about how the Sabres weren't out of it, even after they were below 500 to start the year. And now they have won 8 in a row. I mean, I think that's a team that really has a chance to continue this, to continue playing well, getting wins, getting points, maybe even end the drought. I think it's legit really possible. And they're getting guys back. That's the biggest thing. Josh Norris scored the empty netter back earlier tonight. I think that's a huge get for the Sabres to get him back in the lineup. Speaking of lineups, we'll get into the lineups for tonight's game. The Calgary Flames in the Saddledome taking on the Edmonton Oilers and going with a pretty familiar group. One change. Justin Kirkland is back in for the Calgary Flames, taking the spot of Johnny Beecher on line 4 between Adam Klapka and Ryan Lomberg. The 29-year-old Kirkland has 1 assist in 9 games with the Flames this year. He's also played in 14 games with the Calgary Wranglers. scoring 5 goals and 7 points. Kirkland pretty good in the faceoff circle, has not played in an NHL game since November the 1st, when he logged 11:35 of ice time against the Nashville Predators, the team that drafted him back in 2014. Kirkland was subsequently waived and sent down to the American Hockey League, and now he's back in the NHL. So Justin Kirkland giving the Flames a new look between Lomberg and Klapka. It's been a tough run for Johnny Beecher. Don't think it's necessarily all his fault, but I don't think he's played particularly well. And so he comes out, and Justin Kirkland, who obviously went on a great little run with the Flames last year, is back in. So that's the only change for the Flames up front. The rest of the lineup stays the same. Farabee, Kadri, Sharangovich, Huberdeau, Frost, Coronado, Zary, Backlund, and Coleman. We'll go to the defense for the Calgary Flames. Again, it stays the same. Ball with Anderson, Kuznetsov with Uyghur, and Joel Hanley with Hunter Brustevich. One piece of news that came out over the week, Henry Brustevich, a late cut from Team USA at the World Juniors. Just a couple too many defensemen. Hey, speaking of Team USA, this is good news for the Calgary Flames. One of their prospects, one of their top forward prospects, left off of Team USA, and probably a bit of a mistake, because Team USA is real thin down the middle. Really thin down the middle. They have James Higgins, who was a top 10 pick of the Boston Bruins earlier this year. And beyond him down the middle, they're going with Kamil Bednarik, Cole McKinney, and AJ Spalacy. I don't think I'm saying that right. But in any event, none of those guys are first-round picks. They are prospects of varying levels of repute. And to me, it just, makes it much more curious to me why Cullen Potter is not on Team USA. And Cullen Potter has been playing much, much better with the Arizona State Sun Devils of late. He opened the year just chewing on minuses with the Sun Devils. It was kind of a tough scene, but Potter has been playing terrifically. He's been elevated to the number 1 center position with the Sun Devils. And tonight, in a 5-1 win over number 8 ranked Dartmouth, this was a real shock. The Sun Devils win 5-1. It wasn't even close. And Cullen Potter with a goal and 2 assists and 6 shots on net. By far the team lead. He had twice as many shots as anybody else on the Sun Devils. So 27 shots in total. He had 6 of them, and he contributed to more than half the goals. I think he was the first star. Cullen Potter having a real nice run of late. The Calgary Flames selected Potter 32nd overall this past year's draft. And now this season, he's up to 19 points in 19 games as a sophomore in his D+1 season at Arizona State. He's got 7 goals and 19 points in 19 games. It's really good to see. And I think it is super exciting. I think he's a player who Team USA might regret not taking to the World Juniors. And I think he's a player who they will take next year at that tournament, because the skill down the middle is something that they just don't have relative to teams like Sweden and Canada. I mean, Sweden has been playing Anton Frundell on the wing, and Canada has been playing guys like Cole Reshny and Caleb Desnoyers and guys like that on the wing. And the States, they don't have centers to rub together. They got plenty of wingers, but it's been a bit of a tough sledding for them down the middle. So good to see Cullen Potter finding his stride, finding his groove with the Sun Devils, a program that, again, has really only graduated 2 full-time NHLers. It hasn't been around that long, about 10 years. Joey Decord and Josh Doan, both of them were fine players. Josh Doan, a big part of this Sabres season. And I think it would be huge if Cullen Potter continued to develop and started to look like, more of a future top 6 prospect, because to start the year, it was looking kind of tough. He had 1 goal, I think, in his first 11 games at ASU this season. But he's really starting to pick it up. The shots are going in, and he's no longer getting every bad bounce going to the back of his net. I mean, if you look at Cullen Potter last season as a 17-year-old in the NCAA, 22 points in 35 games, 13 of those points were goals. You look at the guys who spend their draft years in the NCAA, there's not many. You only have like 2 guys like Celebrini ever. Most of them kind of look like Cullen Potter or Mike Camilleri. There's a few others. I mean, Camilleri's a good comp. In his draft year, he didn't even get picked. I mean, a 5'9", 185-pound winger back in 1999, not a surprise. He also had 13 goals in 39 games at the University of Michigan. So not too different. And he ended up being a very good NHLer, scored 30 goals multiple times, played in 906 games. So if you get that out of Cullen Potter, you're thrilled. So that's some good news coming out of the Flames prospect pool on this Saturday afternoon, I suppose. I think it was at Mullet Arena down in Tempe. The game going live right now, Czechia versus Denmark. Vaclav Nestrasil, a Chicago Blackhawks pick, has made it 3-1. We'll continue on talking about the Edmonton Oilers lineup for tonight's game against the Calgary Flames. Again, not a whole lot of news around this. Looking pretty similar to what we saw a few nights ago. It's a good lineup. It is a top-heavy lineup. The big news with the Oilers right now is the story around David Tomashek, who has appeared in 22 games with the Oilers this season. He is not in the lineup tonight. He will not be in the lineup for them again, as Tomashek is being placed on unconditional waivers for the purposes of mutual contract termination. He's a 6'2" right wing, has 5 points, 3 goals with the Oilers this season, and now it looks like he's going back home. He's, again, a Czech player. He's from Prague, and it just hasn't worked. So the Oilers will go with the likes of Max Jones and Matthias Janmark and Matt Savoy and Trent Frederick and their bottom 6 instead. The Oilers kind of toyed with the Flames a few nights ago. They put up a bunch of goals on the power play. The funny thing that I heard Derek Wills talking about on the radio broadcast, listening to that for part of the game, that was kind of funny. The Oilers beat the Flames 5-1 in that game, and 5 Oilers players had points. Only 5 players had points in that game. 5 players in a 5-1 win. McDavid had 5 points, Hyman had 3, Draisaitl had 3, Nugent Hopkins had 1, and Bouchard had 2, and that was it. So I don't remember the last time I've ever seen that. And to me, you can get away with that playing against the Calgary Flames, a team that might finish last in the league this season. But I don't know. I think if you are going out and having a game where you win 5-1 and only 5 guys are contributing to that, it doesn't strike me as being the most sustainable method, but power to him. Connor Ingram expected to be between the pipes for the Edmonton Oilers again, his 3rd consecutive start. He is 2-0-0 with the Oilers this season with a .920 save percentage. Again, great to see Connor Ingram back in the NHL. I've been a fan of his going back many, many years, going back to his time with the Yotes, and he is a good human, and I'm glad to see him back in the league. And that's really all I got to say about that. He's a good dude. Somebody in the chat, it was Magic 1989, just pointing out that the Winnipeg Jets, who can't buy a win right now, just gave up the tying goal in their game against the Minnesota Wild with 22 seconds left. Matt Zuccarello getting his 3rd of the year from Kirill Kaprizov and Quinn Hughes. Tie that game up at 3. But it will go to overtime. The Jets will get a point. And with that point, they tie the Calgary Flames in the standings. And because they have 1 game fewer played, they technically pass the Calgary Flames in the standings. So regardless of how that game ends, entering tonight's game for the Calgary Flames against the Edmonton Oilers, only 2 teams in the entire league have a worse record than the Calgary Flames, the Vancouver Canucks and the Chicago Blackhawks. And checking in again with that Chicago game, after 2 in Dallas, it is the Blackhawks 2, and it is the Stars 2. Jason Dickinson and Tyler Bertuzzi have the goals for the Hawks. Frank Nazar and Connor Bedard not in the lineup for Chicago. Speaking of struggling teams, we heard about the Toronto Maple Leafs over the Christmas break. They're promoting Steve Sullivan, another former Yote, up to the NHL bench. He was with the Marlies. He's now going to be an assistant coach with the Leafs, replacing the fired Mark Savard, a former Flames player and assistant coach. And the Leafs defeating the Ottawa Senators. This one just went final as well. 7-5 in tonight's game at the Scotiabank Arena. So defense still very much optional for the Toronto Maple Leafs, it seems. But they did get a lot of goals. They got some good performances from individual players. Max Domi with 3 assists. Nyes with a couple of goals and an assist. Matthews with 3 points. Matias Maccelli with a couple of assists. They win that game 7-5 against the Ottawa Senators. We'll have a look at another bet from the good folks over at Sports Interaction. And I honestly forget what the bet is. So producer Michael, let's put it up on screen and see what I picked. Right, player shots. Haven't done this one in a while. Player shots, this is a good one. Earlier in the season, we were saying go over on Matt Coronado and Blake Coleman. And I don't know, that over is still looking pretty tempting for Matt Coronado at plus 145 for over 2.5 shots. I think these are some actually pretty favorable lines if you are more discerning. I see a couple of pluses there that I would really be keen on. I would go the plus 145 for Matt Coronado. I would maybe go over on Coleman and maybe Igor Sharangovich. There are a couple of players there, but I still think in large part I would maybe lean under for more of these players. The Flames, if you'll remember, a couple of nights ago, the Oilers outshot them 39-19. Now, I get it. They're at home today. They're not playing on the road like they were in Edmonton on the 23rd. But still, I would maybe lean under on more of these. But there's a few overs that look attractive to me. Matty Coronado at plus 145 at over 2.5. That's maybe one that I would lean on. So there's a look at some of the good lines over at Sports Interaction, where every game is your game. Get in on the action with parlay boosts, live betting, and easy deposits and payouts. Bet now at sportsinteraction.com/FlamesNation. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. The fun thing about these later shows is that we get to sort of follow along with things as they're happening. Like, there are games that are happening in the NHL right now. My buddy Brad Gossai is going to be really upset, though, because the Winnipeg Jets blew it. Not even a full minute of game time after, well, I guess just slightly over a full minute of game time after Matt Zuccarello tied it. Matt Boldy wins it for the Minnesota Wild. He's got 24 goals this season. Hughes, another assist. Kaprizov, another assist. Hughes ends up with 3 apples on the evening. He's just been a perfect fit for the Minnesota Wild, who win again. And the Winnipeg Jets lose again. But they do still tie the Calgary Flames in the standings. They surpass them technically on points percentage. Rough time to be a Winnipeg Jets fan. That is a team that is really, really struggling. We have a super chat from Jordan-90. A super chat with no text, but it does benefit the Youth Centers of Calgary. We appreciate it, Jordan-90. That's very kind of you. The Youth Centers of Calgary, it's a place where kids can get the attention, the care that they need, especially around this time of year. Keep the chats coming. There's been good stuff all show long. I hope y'all got good Christmas presents. I got a few that I was pretty happy with myself. And this is sort of, I was saying it on some shows before the break. This is the start of a stretch for the Calgary Flames that I think will be very much full of activity. I was saying to Kent Wilson on the 23rd, I sometimes characterize the Flames as being a team where with them, nothing ever happens. And it's kind of felt that way over the last year. They have not made a single hockey move of serious consequence in nearly a full year now. Nothing in free agency. Nothing really out of training camp. Nothing at last trade deadline. They claimed Johnny Beecher off waivers at the start of this season. Beecher's already a healthy scratch tonight. Really, the last consequential move they made was trading for Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee, which was a pretty solid deal. I think if you traded both those guys today, you'd recoup more value than they gave up. But still, I think there is room for them to make some moves. And I think what we're going to see here is things starting to come together. I think this Christmas break is going to be very enlightening for a number of teams. And I think the Flames maybe are one of them, but I think more so it'll be the buyers who are enlightened about who they are and who they feel comfortable giving up. And if you break the season down into 4 quarters of 20-odd games, well, this really is the third quarter. This from now until the trade deadline. And if you want to maybe break it up a little bit further, you can say now until the Olympic break. And this next month is going to be wildly illustrative about the state of the league. Are all 3 of Nazem Kadri, Blake Coleman, and Rasmus Andersson going to be here on January 31st? I say no. And this is the first time all year where I felt compelled to say, no, I am sure the Flames will make a move in the next month. It hasn't felt that way at all in the last 6, 8, 9 months, but now it feels like the wheels are turning. It feels like we've gotten deep enough into this season where the writing is on the wall. Things have been so tight, but now finally, after tonight, the Flames are in all likelihood going to be more than 5 points out of a playoff spot. That's a lot. It is a lot. It is. It really is. Especially when you're a team like the Flames where, that's 3 wins. How many games does it take the Flames to win 3? Right? Recently, it's been not as many, but they're also getting into a harder part of their schedule. They've had some fortunate luck. They've had bounces go their way. I think we're going to see a little bit of regression. And I think the next month, like I said, is going to be very illustrative of how things will go from here. Looks like the Nashville Predators and St. Louis Blues. This is another game that is very important on the out of town. This is a 3-point game. The Blues are outscoring the Predators 2-1 despite being outshot 18-13. These are two teams that have been hanging around down near the Flames for most of the year. But now Nashville has gone 7-3-0 in their last 10. And if they win, they're 1 point out of a playoff spot. So that's something to look at if you are a fan of the Calgary Flames. Those two teams still very much in the Flames' periphery. It would be nice if that game went to overtime. Keep the chats coming, folks. We're going to wrap things up here in a matter of moments. This is very interesting. On the out of town, Denmark's Oliver Larsson just scored to make it a 3-2 game against Czechia, and I can't even figure out who should be the favorite at this World Juniors. There are people out there who are talking about how Canada is no longer the team that blows out Latvia 16-0. But I think the overall parity of this tournament is affecting everybody, and I think it's great. I would much rather watch these 2-1 games where Michael Hage beats Latvia with an OT dramatic game winner rather than a 16-0 shellacking where, you don't learn anything about who the players actually are. We're learning so much about which of these players are truly trusted and which players are on the periphery. And the good news for the Calgary Flames, Zane Parek's trusted. He's led them in ice time both the last two games. Huge super chat coming in from Fake Alfazzo. $20 to the youth centers of Calgary. This is fantastic. Hey, Mike. What? First move for the Flames makes the most sense. P.S. Glad you survived. We'll just skip that. At the drinky party, way to stay classy, Mike. I was just trying to help. That's all I got to say. I was just trying to help everybody involved. And I hope everybody had a good night. That's all I got. What first move do I think the Flames make? I think Rasmus is as good as gone. I think the last week has probably spurred the most productive discussions the Flames have had about Rasmus so far. And I feel like he's going to be gone pretty quick, like really quick. So we'll see. I'm out of town all next week. I'm going to be up in Camrose doing something called the Viking Cup. It's on this side. And so my guess is that it'll happen while I'm out of town. That's just how it tends to happen. Last year, the Mikko Rantanen trade to Carolina went down while I was sitting in a movie theater watching, I don't even remember what movie. I think it was One of Them Days or something with SZA. It just, these things tend to happen in memorable moments and situations. I think it'll be Rasmus. I think it'll be pretty quick. Jason Montreal 1981 asking, is Stuxilius injured? Not on Finland's team. Yes. Theo Stuxilius is injured. He suffered a laceration earlier on this season. He hasn't played in quite some time, not since the beginning of October, but it wouldn't matter either way because he's Swedish. He wouldn't have been on Finland's team regardless. He's from Sweden. He plays for Djurgården in the Swedish Hockey League, and he's from Norrtälje. So he wouldn't have been for Team Finland either way. But there you go. So I think that pretty much covers it. Anything else we should talk about just before we head off for the night and before I get into my car and drive 3 hours? Because that's what I'm doing tonight. I'm going to be listening to this game all the way up. I'm going to be listening to the dulcet tones of a certain color commentator and broadcaster. It's going to be fantastic. Looking forward to it. Hope everybody enjoys the game, wherever you're tuning in from, however method you choose to digest it. Be cool to see the Calgary Flames win. But if they don't, Gavin McKenna is playing pretty well. And I think there's a lot to like in what we've seen from Team Canada so far. Thank you all for tuning in. For the good folks over at Sports Interaction. One more time, every game is your game when you bet with Sports Interaction. Get in on the action with parlay boosts, live betting, and easy deposits and payouts. Bet now at sportsinteraction.com/FlamesNation. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. And yes, to everybody in the chat, I will stay safe. I've got some good winter tires. Invest in the winter tires. Don't get the Swedish winter tires. Get the Finnish winter tires. Don't get Theo Stocksilius' winter tires. Actually, I'm sure his are probably pretty good too. But the Nokians, that's not a sponsor, but still, just keep it in mind. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thank you all for the super chats benefiting the youth centers of Calgary. Thank you to my producer, Michael out east, and to all of you in the chat. Enjoy the game, Flames Oilers, and you've been watching another edition of the Warmies.
Hey, buddies. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Also, if you could throw in a like and subscribe, it does help us out with what it is we are doing. And check out more at flamesnation.ca.